Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show and definitely another exciting guest. Today, we're going to talk about that word empowerment. Such a big word, especially when you're talking about that beast mindset. How do you get empowerment? What are some of the struggles that keep you from enabling yourself to elevate? And what are some of the things that basically keep you from elevating, and how, more importantly, how it can really change your trajectory moving forward, not only in family members or friends, but even the social aspect of your life. Let's go deeper. Just imagine taking that word and putting it into a lesson plan, sort of a blueprint to enlighten, enrich, and empower your self-worth. Today we have a young lady all the way from the DC area. I told her I like Maryland, but you know she's a DC. But the good part about it, she's a Hoosier. She's from Evansville, Indiana. So let's welcome to the show the one and only Coach Dr. Let me get the name right, because you don't ever want to mess up on it, and I can't see. Coach Dr. Ann Hester to the show. What's up, baby girl?
It's been a long time since somebody called me young, so thank you.
Hey, I always believe sometimes you got to start off somebody with a smile. And if that keeps you smiling throughout the end of the day, I've done my job.
There you go. Thank you.
So let's go a little deep before we get into the book, The Patient Empowerment 101, and how that came about. First, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are. We know that you're from Evansville, Indiana. So give me a little bit more information about that.
Well, I'm a Hoosier too. Went to school in Evansville, went to medical school in Tennessee. To make a long story short, right now I'm a physician on a mission to empower people to thrive. They don't realize how much power they have. And we as physicians have not really done a good job at empowering people. And so I'm all about empowering people, giving them the basic tools they need just to live their lives better.
You know, it is so funny how the universe works, right? Because I'm a personal trainer, retired, and I deal with weight loss, human performance, and overall health. And I work closely with doctors and physicians on both sides of the spectrum. But I still have clients that come to me that still is suffering from medical conditions. Now the new thing is the Ozempic and the pills to lose weight. And I get it. That's probably one of our biggest things that we're dealing with, as well as diabetes and high blood pressure. But you would think, with so many years have passed, that doctors in the medicine field will have other alternatives, like you're saying, besides just putting people on medications. But why are you taking the stand and other doctors are really not following your blueprint?
I think there are multiple things going on. I have spent so much time, I saw so many patients who suffered unnecessarily, died prematurely from things that were preventable, treatable, or reversible. And that's ultimately how the book came about. I watched people, talk to doctors, talk to me and other people. And you don't have to go to medical school. You don't have to be a nurse to understand how to expedite your own diagnosis. Going back to something that you just said about other ways, there actually are now. And that's beyond the scope of this particular podcast. But after practicing internal medicine for decades, I went back, I became board certified in lifestyle medicine, which is about preventing, treating, and reversing many common diseases. We now even know how to get a lot of people off of insulin and their pills with these pillars of lifestyle medicine. This particular field is spreading around the world. It's like in 50 countries now. And the American Medical Association put out a resolution in 2017 saying you doctors need to learn this, because you're right. It's basically anatomy, physiology, disease, pill, or surgery. But now we know there is a much better way.
What are some of the things that people have died prematurely from? I had a good friend of mine, this is no lie. He went into the hospital. I never will forget it. I had just came to visit him from Ohio, and I was wondering why he wasn't answering the phone. And next thing you know, he did. He was in a hospital. He had septic or whatever it was. You know, I didn't know what it was. I walked in and they freaked out. It's like, you can't go in there, blah, 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 blah. And I remember my friend telling me, she said, you know, your friend's going to die. Because they were talking about cutting his foot off, right? From diabetes.
Diabetic.
And they did give him alternative. I was like, look, dude, you need to eat right. You know, you need to eat right, you need to exercise. Long story short, within less than a year, he was taken. But
sorry for
to answer that, to go back to my question in general, you said you have come in contact with multiple situations like that. Give the viewer some of the situations that you've witnessed where people died that, with the new information that you got, could have saved them.
I will never forget when I was an intern. There was a man who was in his 40s, maybe early 50s. He was overweight, had diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and he had a massive heart attack and died. This is a young man. I'll never forget telling his wife in the ICU waiting room and how she fell on the floor screaming. She was not consolable. And that is something that happened over 30 years ago. I will never, ever forget it. And I'll never forget a woman when I was in medical school. She came into the clinic and she had a breast cancer the size of a golf ball that was draining pus. It was the outer left breast. I'll never forget this. And I remember saying to myself, if you had come earlier, you wouldn't be dying. But there's no way we could fix this now. I was a medical student. I didn't need a biopsy. I felt it. That's cancer. I'm talking 30 years of drama and trauma, watch people and just wishing that they had done things differently. And one of the best things that I had when I was a practicing doctor, I right now do administrative medicine, but I had a patient I counseled over and over and over about weight, and he stopped coming. And I thought, oh my gosh, I went too far. And then a few years later, I opened the examining room door. Dr. Hester, I wanted to wait till I lost 100 pounds, but I got bronchitis, so I'm back at 99 pounds. People have tremendous power to turn things around. And it's just that they need the tools, they need the motivation. Sometimes they may need the coaching, they may need a variety of things. But heart disease, 80% of cases of heart disease, which is the number one cause of killer in America and many other nations, could be preventable. Strokes, multiple forms of cancer, diabetes, obesity, with all the things that go along with that. There are so many things we can do differently that now doctors around the world are picking up on decades of research. The data is so strong that we can prevent, treat, and reverse a lot of these things naturally, that the AMA got involved 8 years ago. The last time I checked, I was one of like less than 0.4% of U.S. physicians board certified in this area that we have known for a long time can help prevent the diseases. I don't like giving pills. I personally, if I can do it naturally, that's what I want to do. I gave them because I needed to, because we didn't have all this data, all this information.
Right.
But an example, recently I counseled somebody on ways to cut the cholesterol. The cholesterol that clogs the arteries that leads to heart attacks and strokes. This person's cholesterol was in the stroke range. Taught this person the lifestyle medicine pillars, and it dropped back to the normal range, 0 pills. And so that is just one recent example of how powerful these natural modalities are.
Let's go back a little bit. You mentioned several things. You mentioned the cholesterol, you mentioned the stroke and so forth. Just give me like maybe the audience, like maybe 2 things they can do in each category that can get them on the road.
Okay.
To seeing something.
Okay, so cholesterol, certainly managing the weight is important. Exercise, I know you asked for 2, but I'm going to keep going. Flaxseed can lower your cholesterol. psyllium powder. I ended up I got the psyllium powder, and I made some crackers with psyllium powder, put all sorts of spices in it, and that was edible. There are a variety of things that we can do that are natural. Fiber is very important. Beans are important. If you have a cup of beans a day, that when you eat beans, your gut organisms turn it into a chemical called butyrate. Butyrate lowers your blood sugar naturally without insulin. And so that is one of the steps that we take when we're trying to get a person off of the diabetes medication. This is all natural. Well, so as far as the stroke, some of the very similar things, because one of the leading risk factors for stroke is high cholesterol. You lower your cholesterol, you lower your stroke risk. A whole food plant-based diet is the only diet that has been shown to actually reverse heart disease. I don't mean if you've got 95% blockage and you go on a plant-based diet, it's going to clean out the vessels. But there is evidence that if you take two groups of people, one group follows the regular statins, aspirin, all these things, the standard of care, and the other group goes to a whole food plant-based diet, exercise, stress reduction, and so forth, the pillars of lifestyle medicine, and you repeat the study in 5 years, people who followed the natural modalities, these specific pillars, are likely to have less blockage, whereas those who are on the expensive medications are still going to have more blockage. God put a lot of healing in this earth, but we need to harness it. And I'm not saying to stop your medications, never do that. I don't give advice. I give information, but that is just one example. We know what we can be doing differently, but in general, the public does not know.
Let me go back a little bit more. Thank you for sharing that information. And like she just said to the listeners, we're providing information. You guys need to take the information and utilize it, because if you don't share the information and you don't go and put forth the effort to research on your own, then you put your own self in harm's way. But let's go back for a minute. You talked about knowing the symptoms, but some people, I'm not going to say they don't see the symptom. Maybe sometimes I'm focusing on a best friend of mine who I know was truly healthy. I remember going to watch the first Marvel movie with him. He was getting ready to go on vacation with his wife. Perfect, healthy individual. I get a phone call at my gym on a Monday. Never will forget it. They said, "Hey, where are you at?" I said, "I'm at the gym." It was one of his friends. And he said, "You need to go to the hospital. Such and such is in the hospital." I don't want to mention his name out of respect. And when I get to the hospital, he's there, and they doing a test on him. A couple days by the time they got done with the biopsy, he had stage 4 cancer, brain cancer. And I'm like, I asked him, I said, "You had no idea?" But he said he had passed out a little bit one day and stuff. And this couldn't have been no more than a couple weeks after we saw a movie. And before you know it, he had a stroke. And he wasn't with us. It wasn't even a couple months, because I remember them saying that the only people who can come and see him was really family members, because they was afraid that he would catch, disease or something, and it would make it go. But what I'm saying with that is, sometimes even when we're healthy, maybe we don't see the signs. What's your take on that?
Signs and symptoms often don't show up until a condition is far advanced. For instance, let's take diabetes. If your blood sugar is a little bit elevated, you're not going to have any idea. High blood pressure, if it's a little bit elevated, you won't have any idea. But when those symptoms really kick in, it's likely going to be when the disease is far advanced. And so there are many things that we can do to decrease the risk of multiple diseases. But just by virtue of the fact that it has to be doing something, impacting some nerve endings, doing something that is going to cause a symptom, when it's early on, it's common not to feel anything. And so that's why it's so important that you do everything you can to try to prevent a variety of diseases, because you may not know that you have something until it's too late. They call hypertension the silent killer.
Right.
People who they feel fine, have a stroke, and they die. The number one symptom for a lot of people with heart disease is death. They don't know that they have heart disease, so they have a massive fatal heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is why it's so important to do everything you can. We cannot prevent everything. We can prevent many things. So we have to do the best we can do with what we have, realizing that at some point it may be out of our control, but we have control over what we do from day to day and our risk of developing diseases. We have like these little switches in the body. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to get diabetes because mom had it, dad had it, brother had it, sister had it. Well, you might have a genetic predisposition toward diabetes. That doesn't mean you're going to get it. Maybe mom, dad, brother, sister did some of the same things, followed some of the same similar patterns that put them at risk. And maybe there was a genetic predisposition, but everybody who has that predisposition is not going to get the disease. Most diseases are not transmitted in a dominant fashion, meaning there are very few diseases that are genetically such that there's nothing you can do.
Right.
A lot of them, you have this switch, and the switch turns off and on. It's called epigenetics. Your daily choices flip that switch toward disease or toward health. And that is completely under our control.
It is so funny you say that, because I've been saying that to my clients for years, because a lot of them say, well, I'm genetically. No, you're not. All you have to do is change.
Yep.
Something that you do daily to change that. It's not saying, like you said, you can't get rid of that gene if it's there, but you can control the switch on whether it's not going to be good or whether it's going to be bad. Yeah. So I'm going to use my own self for example. I had knee problems, a knee thing from lifting weights and then a car accident, and got an injection, cortisol steroid. This is so funny that you said the symptoms, but I'm going to go deep with this. So I get the first injection and I get home and I start having hiccups. Didn't think nothing about it, It's the middle of the night. I called the doctor and said, hey, man, check this out. I got hiccups. They don't know where they came from. They kind of brushed it off like they didn't know what was going on. Eventually, it went away. Didn't think nothing about it. A couple of years later, I get another one. Same thing happens. Think nothing about it, because the doctor told me, oh, well, it'll just go away. This time I go get one after I get a complete physical. Physically fit, exercise, eat good, the whole 9 yards. When I leave the office, a couple hours later, I get the hiccups again. But this time they're not going away. They're like continuous. Long story short, within a couple of days, I was in the gym, had no idea. Looked in the mirror, my eye was drooping a little bit. I'm like, what the heck? I'm thinking this may be from stress. Mm-hmm. Just had this, the injection, but I'm got a perfect bill of health. I'm training. I look in the mirror, I just felt like it may be from stress. So I put a cold compress on my eye. But I'm having headaches like crazy. So I go back and forth to the hospital and I can't get rid of the hiccups. So I remember telling the people in the ER, I said, look, check this out. I just got a complete physical from my doctor and I got an injection. I said, this is like the third or fourth time that this has happened with this injection. Can you please, this is a communication between me and the people in the emergency room. Can you call the doctor that injected me? Maybe I'm having a reaction to this because this was some of the symptoms. Nobody did anything. Nobody. I remember them put me on something for hiccups and I had this real hard migraine. I never had a headache in my life. And before I knew it, it was like, we're going to send you over to a neurologist. I get to the neurologist like the next day. She was like, I'm going to admit you in the hospital. You had a stroke. I said, what? Sure enough, when I got admitted, yeah, I had a what you call a T, whatever that.
CIA?
Luckily, the doctor told me the only thing that really saved my life. I had a allergic reaction to the shot,
Mm-hmm.
but the only thing that saved me was the fact that I exercised. I was a bodybuilder,
Mm-hmm.
and my heart muscles were super strong. But it did affect a little bit of the brain to where I had to like start writing little stuff down, and stuff. But I remember, I'm getting ready to close this story out. I remember going to the doctor that gave me the injection. And I came in with no appointment. It wasn't that I was mad. I just wanted to know why he didn't answer the call when I called him or when I first started having these symptoms, because I called his office several times. So he took me in the back and he says, I'm sorry. That's all he said. I'm sorry, but you're one of such and such and such that this could have happened to. I said, but what could have happened? I could have died. So my question here is, my hat's off to you for really taking the chance. And I'm for medicine, but I also think when you go into the doctor, you have to take accountability for your own health
Yes.
assessment. Now, when I go to the doctor, I'm asking all kind of questions. Before you give me anything, you need to do blood work to see, am I allergic to this? Because that was an awakening sign for me. I'm allergic to that. So now it's medically documented. What's your take on that?
There's not blood work to check to see if you're allergic to everything. It just doesn't exist.
Okay.
And so, I mean, aspirin can kill people. Tylenol is a leading cause of liver failure. I mean, if you take 1 million people, a tiny percent is going to have a tiny percent B, C, D, E. So you're going to, I don't know if you've ever seen a physician's desk reference, it's about this thick, because every drug has the potential to do harm. Aspirin can kill you, but it doesn't kill most people. Tylenol can cause liver failure, that can kill you, but it doesn't do most to most people. Ibuprofen can cause internal bleeding and kidney failure. People don't think twice before they take ibuprofen. So every single drug you put in your body, remember how I said I don't like prescribing drugs, but I did it because this is what we need to do for the person at that time. That is the reason. There is no drug that exists that they made in a pharmaceutical laboratory that is without side effects or without risk. It's just a matter of how much risk. So there is no blood test you can do to say, is this person allergic to this antibiotic?
Right.
There are certain like skin tests and other allergy testing for a small handful of things. But overall, the vast majority, it just doesn't exist. And if it did, insurance companies wouldn't pay for it. It would be phenomenally expensive. And then that would delay care. Because if a person needed blood work before every medication, a lot of people end up in the hospital and dead waiting for the results to come back.
What's your take on holistic treatment? Right now, we're seeing a major increase in holistic medications because, let's get real, most pharmaceutical drugs are plant-based, and then they might have other fillers in it. What's your take on that?
I love them. Personally, I just happen to have one of my favorites, ashwagandha.
I heard of that.
It's natural. It calms you down. Something I love, my husband teases me when we go on vacation or he goes in the bathroom, you'll see stevia packets all over the place in my pocket. Stevia, as opposed to the other artificial sweeteners that they create, stevia is a plant. I even buy organic stevia. I carry it around. I don't have it with me, but I carry organic stevia. I have it in like a couple of rooms in my purse. I bake with that. I make sweet potato casserole. I make stuff. My teenagers like it. I put it in my coffee. Purely natural, even organic. If you can go natural, go natural. Don't stop medication.
Right.
But learn everything you can learn about your condition. Talk to your doctor. A lot of things, they have the potential to thin the blood or do other things. So don't assume because it's natural, everybody should take it. I would
Right.
not do that. That could get you into danger. But do your due diligence. I have a variety of natural things. Like I have a cabinet of all sorts of things because I prefer natural because I know what happens with drugs. And if there's a natural, preferably organic way to do it, I want that. Even when it comes down to my toothpaste, household
Right.
cleaners, all of that. All of these things that are made industrially, they're chemicals. If you can't pronounce them, you probably don't need them in your body, on your skin, inhaling, and so forth. The caveat certainly being medications that can prolong your life and decrease the risk of problems. So I mentioned to you that I went back and I got board certified in the field of
Right.
lifestyle medicine. Lifestyle medicine is all natural. You don't use pills in lifestyle medicine to treat conditions. You use natural things. And
That's
so there's a reason, I mean, people are realizing, all these side effects, all these problems, the expense, many things, there is no natural alternative. But for a lot of things, there are. I mean, let's
right.
look at Prozac,
Right.
Paxil, all those things. They're in a class of drugs called SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. SSRIs, that's simpler. Serotonin deals with your mood. Well, there's a plant. 5-HTP, there's a chemical, 5-HTP, that you can find in plants. And you take that, and it does the same thing from a plant. And again, not giving advice. You need to talk to your doctor. Never stop medication based on
Right.
anything like this. But if you have like mild anxiety, mild depression, you talk to your doctor, you're not doing anything. Exercise, oh my gosh. Exercise releases these feel-good chemicals that go to your brain. And they relieve anxiety and depression naturally. The 5-HTP I talked about, you can get that on Amazon. A natural way to help anxiety and depression. I mean, that
Well,
is
how do you know if this
the
stuff is
iceberg.
didn't mean to cut you off, but how do you know if this stuff is um 100% natural, made from the natural ingredients? I mean, you got so
But
many people now that are making stuff, and you don't know who to trust nowadays. So what should a person look for to know that they're getting pure organic ingredients in their products?
certain things they say organic, and there's a little bit of something else in them, but we don't have a way to be perfect. If we look at something that is 100% chemical, something that says organic that may have 1 or 2% in it that's not 2% versus 100%, I still go with that. So for me, I mean, even with food, I like to grow my food. Can't grow it all, of course. And in the winter, that's not realistic. But as best you can only do what you can do. Organic fruits, vegetables, grains, all of those things. If you shop the periphery of the store, you have the fruits, the vegetables, the meats, and milks and so forth. If you go to the inner part of the store, you're going to pick up boxes with words you cannot pronounce.
Yeah.
Steer clear of those. Get the organic, or at least the most natural brand. And so I'm not looking for perfection. I have a ton of natural organic things in my cupboard. And okay, so they're not 100% perfect, but they're a whole lot better than the alternative.
You
So
sound
look
just like
for,
me.
yeah,
I tell
look
I tell
for
my clients to
brands
do the
that
same
are
thing. Shop
reputable.
on the outside of the perimeter of the grocery store. I'm like, why do you go down the aisles? Everything you need is usually on the outer perimeter of the grocery store. Yeah. So let me ask another question real quick. We talk about um, alternative to prescriptions, but let's talk about some of the biggest prescriptions that people have to deal with constantly is antibiotics. And that seems to be the major thing that people always have to go to the doctor to get, because from what we was told, the antibiotics cure everything. But are you suggesting that there may be plant-based products or plant-based plants that can also do the same thing naturally?
So the short answer is no. Antibiotics, if you have an infection and the doctor prescribes antibiotics and you don't take them, For certain infections, you could end up septic in the hospital. Some of them may kind of get better, but by and large, if a doctor's putting you on antibiotics and there's clear evidence that there is an infection, that's concerning because people do go on to develop sepsis, septic shock, and they can die of an overwhelming infection. People don't realize you can die from a bladder infection. You can die from a skin infection. Anything that gets in your bloodstream or anything that becomes overwhelming has the potential to kill you. So I don't play with those things. But that being said, going back to the natural things, if you are eating a healthy diet, I'm a vegetarian, so whole food, plant-based diets, they're the ones that can reverse a lot of diseases like heart disease and so forth, and improve diabetes, high blood pressure, and so forth. Then if you're eating regularly, you're sleeping, you manage your stress, you exercise, you avoid all these toxins all around, and you have good social connections, which actually can help you live longer because they release hormones and so forth that counterbalance some of the negative hormones, then your immune system is going to be stronger. And so maybe an infection that would have been too mild to get to the point that you even need to see somebody, you're weighing, okay, you have a strong body, healthy immune system. Maybe that immune system is going to fight a minor infection so it doesn't get to be to the point that you need to see a doctor and get on antibiotics. So in that respect, yes, an overall healthy lifestyle can help you fight infection.
How have this message of Empowerment 101 been accepted by the community? You're a leader in your field. People take your advice very strongly, and to even have the credentials that you have and then realize that there is alternatives out here. There is alternatives. How have you been accepted, with people in delivering this message?
As far as Patient Empowerment 101, that's a book that I wrote a few years ago. Patient Empowerment 101, more than a book, it's an adventure. That's on Amazon. But I actually wrote the first rendition back over 20 years ago. I timed a woman. I asked her a yes or no question. It took her 10 minutes to answer me because she had no idea how to put it together well, I'm thinking, and then Uncle Joe was in town. Just a very circuitous route to get to the answer. That's why I wrote the book, Patient Empowerment 101, but I wrote it over 20 years ago. It was published by John Wiley. It was called Your Family Medical Record, an interactive guide to getting the best care. Back then, it did not do well, and I asked for my rights back, and I ultimately republished it. But it didn't do well because people would say, well, I don't need to know how to talk to doctors. I don't need to be empowered. My doctor tells me what to do, and I do it.
Right.
So it did not do well. But over the decades, that has really taken off. I mean, doctors, the patient empowerment field is becoming really strong, and the patient experience is now respected. Patients know I don't have to just ask the doctor what to do and then blindly take this information. The biggest part of my healthcare team is me. And if I am not prepared to talk to the doctor in a way that he is going to respect and be able to work with, then I am putting my self-impairment in peril. So the book I wrote, Patient Empowerment 101, more than a book, it's an adventure, is all about how to become empowered. When you get sick, your visit starts right then. It doesn't start 8 days later when the doctor's had an open appointment. You're sitting on the examining room table, cold, mad that he's behind again, and in pain. And he asks you these questions, and you're like, well, I hadn't thought about it. And the doctor has a short period of time, so he's going to interject. Your feelings may get hurt. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. Let me order this test, this test, this test. Let's try this medication. Come back to see me in a couple of weeks. Doctors spend billions of dollars each year on defensive medicine, meaning tests and procedures are done because they're not really sure, confident of what's going on. They don't want to risk missing a diagnosis. They don't want to risk being sued. So billions of dollars go out each year in defensive medicine. And from my standpoint, if patients know the information I'm teaching, they can cut that back tremendously, because by the end of your last sentence, your doctor has already ruled out multiple potential diagnoses, so it can streamline. I know it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. It's either A or B. So these are the few tests I'm going to order. And this medicine is more likely to work because I know it's not any of the other things that could have been, but you just told me in your words that it wasn't, in so many words.
Man, you're deep. You sound
Thank you.
excuse me, you sound just like when I go to the doctor visits, and that used to be the standard protocol that I had to realize I need to take accountability for what's going on with me and ask the right questions, ask what the tests are for, and be more proactive, because you're right. It's known to the next person when I walk out that room, and the next and the next and the next. Mike, let's go a little bit deeper before we wrap up. What's your take on the flu shots and the COVID shots and so forth? We've had people that passed away from both and stuff, but I'm thinking now, and I don't want people to take this out of content, but I'm starting to think that maybe a holistic approach can maybe change the narrative on how we look at all of this stuff. Because let's get real, this was something that was allegedly created in the laboratory and all of a sudden was dispensed to everybody. What's your take on that?
Let's start with the flu. I remember a healthy, thin man in his 20s came into the emergency room when I was practicing medicine. I had to admit him to the intensive care unit with influenza. He died that night.
Wow.
The man was not healthy. He was not old. Influenza kills many, many, many people. Let's go to COVID. The most horrific time of my life. I will always remember multiple people, even younger than I. A man was basically essentially brain dead with COVID. There was one man I went to see. How you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling okay. Everything's fine. Within 30 minutes, you hear those bells going on. They whisked him to the ICU. COVID, there are no words for that. I was a hospital-based doctor when COVID started. And so the horrors that people experienced, one doctor, she jumped out of a window to kill herself because she had never seen anything so horrific. Not at my hospital, but COVID literally destroyed many people emotionally who had to deal with this, taking care of people, watching this unnecessary suffering and death. So from my standpoint, as I said, every drug has the potential to have side effects.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm going to take it because I remember the glazed look in people's eyes when they were essentially no longer there, mentally no longer there, in their 50s, because COVID had destroyed their brain. I remember the family members calling, "Can I come see my mom before she dies? Hospital's on quarantine. I'm sorry." I'll never forget those things. And so, unless something dramatic happens with these vaccines, and I can't even imagine anything that could happen that would make me say that I would forego the chance of being protected.
Right.
I'm taking it. My family's taking it. Same with influenza. I've seen too many people die from these diseases. So everybody has to make his or her own decision. But getting back to COVID, a major risk factor for dying from COVID during the pandemic was obesity. You could be in your 40s and you're more likely to die than as somebody who's decades older who is healthy. The obesity, which again goes back to a healthy lifestyle, put people at tremendous risk of dying from a disease that somebody, their twin, who was thin and healthy, ate well, exercised and so forth, had it and had very few symptoms. And so it all comes back to your baseline. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to stay healthy?
You know what? I remember briefly when that epidemic happened. I was running my gym and it was so funny. Everybody was getting sick. And I keep my gym sanitized and clean, but people were like getting sick. I just thought it was the flu, because I didn't ever hear the word COVID. I didn't hear that word until I went to my doctor because it was my physical. And he was like, "Hey, Andre, you're around a lot of people. You might want to consider getting this shot called COVID." And I was like, what is that? I'm in the same field, but I don't know what you're talking about. He said they don't even know what it is or how to get it, but you need to get it because you're training a lot of people. Long story short, when COVID took place, after I sold my gym, it was like we went on lockdown, I think, in March. And I realized, probably everybody that I came in contact with, they didn't have the flu. They were suffering from either flu-like symptoms or COVID. So my question to you is, from your knowledge, how did COVID even come to be? Because how can something like, did this resonate from a influenza, from a flu, and mutated into something stronger that we don't know how it even came to be? Because knock on wood, I never got it.
COVID is a coronavirus. There are a lot of coronaviruses. This is just one type of coronavirus. Mm-hmm. Just like influenza A, influenza B, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. COVID is in a class called the coronaviruses. Mm. And how it came to being, God only knows. I'm not going to speculate on that. I can just say that the pandemic was horrific and destroyed, so many people in so many ways.
You know what? I am so pleased that you came to this platform to educate and empower, because that's what your book's about, empowerment 101, and to tell people that we need to take accountability for our own health, to try something different, to stop thinking what we've been told is always right. But more importantly, the listeners need to understand, she never told you to stop your medication. So let's clarify that. She never told you that. She said to consult with your doctor on maybe alternatives. But at the end of the day, you still got to, read the book, understand that there are healthier ways to at least prevent before it becomes worse. How can the viewers reach out to you and know more about your services and to get a copy of your book? And basically, if they even have any questions, I'm pretty sure you don't mind answering them.
Sure. So there are two separate issues. The book, Patient Empowerment 101, More Than a Book, is an adventure. They can go to Amazon and get that. They even have a Kindle version. So that deals with everything from picking the best insurance, learning how to give your doctor 2-minute elevator speech so you could expedite your own diagnoses and save on medical bills, vocabulary so you understand what the doctor's talking about, patient advocacy, all of those things, how to be safer in the hospital. So that deals with my aspect of medicine. I'm board certified in internal medicine. So that deals with empowering patients. The other aspect is my board certification in lifestyle medicine, prevent, treat, and reverse. So I have a program, PTR Reset, prevent, treat, and reverse. My website is ptrreset.com. And I actually have a free course on there. It's the sneak peek. It gives you an overview of lifestyle medicine. There's a short video on each one. So I encourage people, sign up. It doesn't cost anything. Everything's like 15 minutes. And if you want to go on to take something else, one of the higher level courses, everything is on demand. I am on LinkedIn. My name is Dr. Ann Maria Hester. I think LinkedIn just has me as Dr. Ann Hester. If you go to ptrreset.com, you can, reach out to me through there. There's a box where you can contact me. So that's another way to reach me. I'm on Facebook, Ann Hester.
In other words, you're all over social media. You can be found.
And I'm Coach Dr. Ann on Instagram.
Okay. You know what? Thank you so much for taking time out to come and
Thank
share. Like I said, once again, so much valuable information. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, click that button. Sometimes all it takes is a click of a button to make a difference in somebody's life as well as your own. This has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.